Hello students, this is Tulika Banerjee from Forensic Science Unit, SGTB Khalsa College, University of Delhi, presenting this module on behalf of Dr. P. Swathi, Assistant Professor and Head, Department of Psychology, Osmania University, Hyderabad. I am delighted to present this lecture on EYSENCK'S theory of personality and crime. Before we start our chapter with the introduction of this chapter, let's look at the other modules we will study in this chapter. Module 1 is regarding introduction, Module 2 is regarding EYSENCK'S theory of personality, extraversion, neuroticism and psychoticism. Module 3, EYSENCK'S personality theory. Module 4th is regarding the case studies and Module 5th is the conclusion. So, dear students, let us start with our module number 1, which is introduction. Crime or the violation of a written law is a specific kind of deviance. What constitutes a crime varies from society to society. In our society, sociologists have identified 3 general categories of crime. First one, crimes against the person. These are crimes in which an act of violence is either threatened or perpetrated against a person. A mugging is an example of a crime against the person. The second type, that is the crimes against property. These are crimes that involve the theft of property or certain forms of damage against the property of another. Arson is an example of a property crime. The third type, that is victimless crimes. These are crimes in which laws are violated but there is no identifiable victim. Prostitution is often classified as a victimless crime. Now, dear students, we will be studying about the 2 models of crime. The first model, which is the consensus model, in this people agree on basic norms and values. Those who break them must be sanctioned. Laws set boundaries for acceptable behavior within the society. The second model is the conflict model. There are different value systems and norms between groups. The most powerful group imposes its definition of crime on the rest and the justice system primarily serves them and reinforces their power. Now, we will be studying about the types of crime. The first type is the violent crime, that is crimes against persons. Then we have property crime. Then the third one is public order crime, that is contrary to moral values. White collar crimes, these are business related. Organized crimes, they are the illegal acts by illegal organizations, and the high tech crimes. Now, what are the theories of crimes? There are different theories which explain the causes for crime. The most significant are the differential association theory, anomie theory, control theory, labeling theory, learning theory and personality theory. Relation between personality and crime. The term personality is generally used to refer to relatively stable characteristics of a person that make their behavior consistent across situations. Personality is the dynamic organization within the individual of those psychophysical systems that determine his characteristics, behavior and though, as stated by Allport in the year 1961. Personality refers to the characteristics or blend of characteristics that makes a person unique, as stated by Weinberg and Gold in the year 1999. Over the time, there have been various theories of personality. Scientists like Freud, Jung, Cattel, EYSENCK, Skinner, Roger developed some comprehensive theories. Cook in the year 1993 suggests that there are three roots: biological explanations, as in EYSENCK'S theory; phenomenal theories, as in Bandura's self-efficacy; motivational explanations, as in Freud's psychoanalysis. In 1967, EYSENCK developed the three-factored theory of personality, which is a biosocial explanation for criminal behavior. The theory includes three factors of personality which seem to be higher in criminals. Those are E, that is extraversion or introversion; N, neuroticism or stability; P, psychoticism or altruism. Criminals are deeming to be high in PEN, they reach the highest level. He claims that persons high in neuroticism have greater tendency to become criminals due to high levels of emotionality drives people to resort to habitual behavior. According to EYSENCK'S findings, criminals are recruited primarily from among the extroverts. EYSENCK proposed that some people are more likely to commit crime because of their deficiency to learn from previous experiences due to their physical constitution, specifically their neurophysiological functioning. This means that they are difficult to condition. Hans EYSENCK was a research psychologist and temperament theorist. He used factor analysis techniques to develop theories of temperament, that part of the personality we are born with. His original work produced a set of two temperament distinctions: introversion or extroversion and neuroticism. Later, when he began to study patients in mental institutions, he added another dimension to his temperament scale, that is psychoticism, as stated by Bury in 1998 and Holland in 1992. Many other researchers and psychologists have developed theories similar to EYSENCK'S and have also made uses of factor analysis research techniques to extend the study of criminal behavior. As stated by Anastasi in 1988, Darley, Glucksberg and Kinchla in the year 1991, Holland in the year 1992, Link and Mealy in the year 1992. So, what are EYSENCK'S theories about and how has his work added to the study of criminality? So, dear students, in our second module, we will be studying about EYSENCK'S theory of personality, that is extraversion, neuroticism and psychoticism. EYSENCK originally argued that the great variation between people's personalities could be reduced to just two dimensions, which related to the underlying functions of the individual's nervous system. A person's or an individual's level of extraversion, denoted by E, neuroticism, denoted by capital N, can be measured using simple pencil and paper questionnaires such as the EYSENCK Personality Questionnaire or the EPQ. People with high E scores are sociable, active, lively and sensation seeking. E is determined by the overall level of arousal in the person's CNS and ANS. High E scorers have a low level of arousal and therefore need more stimulation from their environment. People with high N scores are anxious, depressed and react very strongly to aversive stimuli. N is determined by the overall level of lability in the person's CNS. Where N is low, the person has a stable, relatively unreactive nervous system, whereas a high N score results in a high degree of instability. EYSENCK later added a third dimension of personality, that is psychoticism, denoted by P. People who score high on P are aggressive, antisocial, cold and egocentric. EYSENCK was less clear on how P related to the functioning of the nervous system. According to EYSENCK, E, N and P are determined largely by genetics. Each trait is normally distributed in the population. That is, most people have moderate E, N and P scores. Extreme scores are rarer, and the more extreme a score, the rarer it is. Now, in our third module, we will be studying about EYSENCK'S personality theory. ENP and the criminal behavior. In EYSENCK'S theory, personality is linked to criminal behavior via socialization processes. EYSENCK viewed criminal behavior as developmentally immature in that it is selfish and concerned with immediate gratification. The process of socialization is one in which children are taught to become more able to delay gratification and more socially oriented. This is accomplished primarily through conditioning. When children act in immature ways, they are punished. Consequently, they come to associate anxiety with antisocial behavior. Where this process is successful, even thinking about behaving antisocially produces anxiety. So the person avoids doing it. EYSENCK believed that people with high E and N scores had nervous systems that made them difficult to condition. As a result, they would not learn easily to respond to antisocial impulses with anxiety. Consequently, they would be more likely to act antisocially in situations where the opportunity presented itself. Evidence for EYSENCK'S theory. EYSENCK'S theory covers a great deal of ground, and there are aspects of it that are not easy to test. However, it does make the basic prediction that compared with non-offenders, offender populations should have higher E, N and P scores. It should be fairly straightforward to test this prediction. Rushton and Christjohn in the year 1981 compared E, N and P scores with self-reports of delinquency in school children and students. They found that those who reported higher levels of delinquency also scored higher on E, P and N. These correlations are consistent with EYSENCK'S prediction. However, studies of official delinquency, example comparing convicted offenders with non-offenders, do not produce such clear-cut results. Farrington etc. al. in the year 1982 reviewed 16 studies of the relationship between E, N and P measures with criminal convictions. They found that in the majority of case offenders scored higher on P and N but not on E. Holland in the year 1989 notes a similar pattern of findings. Offenders generally show higher P and N scores but not necessarily higher E scores. It is not clear why the relationship between E or offending is so inconsistent. One possibility is that E scales actually measure two things, sociability and impulsiveness, and that criminality is associated with the latter but not the former, as is stated by Putwin and Sammons in the year 2002. Next is evaluation of EYSENCK'S theory. There is some empirical support for EYSENCK'S theory, but a number of critics have argued that the data are flawed. Research in this area relies heavily on the self-report measures of personality devised by EYSENCK and colleagues. Some, including Farrington etc. all, have suggested that these scales are subject to response bias. There is also the issue that research has made heavy use of comparisons between convicted offenders and the general population. Such research inevitably excludes those who commit crimes and are not caught and convicted. Consequently, many of these studies may only be telling us about the personality characters of unsuccessful offenders. Leaving aside the issues of sampling and response bias, there is an argument that the theory itself is somewhat circular. Take the example of the Psychoticism scale. To measure P, respondents answer yes or no to a series of statements about whether they act aggressively and selfishly. Their scores on such scales are then used to explain why high P scorers act aggressively and antisocially. This is rather unsatisfactory and P remains a significant weakness of EYSENCK'S theory, since it is far from clear what, if anything, it measures. Further issue arises from the way EYSENCK conceived of personality as a set of stable traits which cause people to behave consistently across situations. However, this is just one of a range of possible approaches to personality. Situationalist theories of personality suggest that no such consistency really exists. Michel in the year 1968, for example, argues that the apparent consistency in people's behavior is an illusion that arises from the fact that we typically observe people in similar situations. If we accept this line of argument, then we must question the existence of the stable personality traits on which EYSENCK'S theory rests. Howitt in the year 2009 explores a number of problems with EYSENCK'S theory. Whilst applauding its attempt to integrate different levels of theorizing, that is genetic, biological, psychological and social, Howitt notes that the broad sweep of EYSENCK'S theory actually addresses few of the real concerns of forensic psychologists who are more interested in questions about specific types of crime. EYSENCK'S theory tells us that rapists and child abusers are extrovert, neurotic and psychotic, but it does not tell us why they rape or abuse children. This criticism could equally be levelled at any of the theories of general criminality that have been put forward by Lombroso. On the other hand, EYSENCK'S theory may point in some useful directions whether it comes to preventing crime. His theory suggests that the underlying tendencies that eventually manifest themselves as criminal behavior are detectable in childhood and that it may be possible to modify the socialization experiences of high-risk individuals so that they do not develop into offenders. This could lead to interventions based on parenting or early treatment for delinquency and hence may be of great practical benefit in reducing the criminal behavior. Module 4th is regarding the case studies. EYSENCK'S personality model and criminal thinking style within a violent and a non-violent offender sample. Application of propensity score analysis given by Daniel Bodziusek, Mar Shevlin, Gary Adamson and Philip Hyland. This study investigated the impact of personality traits, that is EYSENCK'S model, on criminal thinking style using propensity score matching methodology. The research is based on 133 violent and 179 non-violent male recidivistic prisoners incarcerated in high security prison. A post-matching multiple regression model explained 49% of variance in the criminal thinking style, indicating 5 significant predictors: psychoticism, extraversion, neuroticism, associations with criminal friends and criminal identity. The results suggested for the first time that personality traits predict the ways of thinking that are characteristic of persistent criminals, and that individual differences in these psychological traits can have profound effects on an individual who operates within an environment dominated by criminal others. Next is Extraversion, Neuroticism and Criminality, a comparative study of different criminal groups by Uday Pratap Singh, Lal Bahadur Singh, Balanand Sinha and Renu Kumari. 6 groups of criminals and a group of non-criminals, comparable in age, sex, marital status, economic condition, educational status and residence, were compared in terms of the extraversion and neuroticism dimensions of their personality. All the criminal groups were observed as having significantly higher extraversion and neuroticism scores than those of their non-criminal counterparts. However, no marked difference was noticed among the various criminal groups in this regard. So far as extraversion is concerned, different groups of criminals did not differ significantly among themselves, except sex criminals who scored maximum and showed a marked difference in this respect. In relation to neuroticism, arsonists, murderers and dacoits scored significantly higher than sex criminals, thieves and assaulters, who revealed insignificant difference among themselves on this dimension. Now, dear students, let us conclude this lecture. Crime or the violation of a written law is a specific kind of deviance. What constitutes a crime varies from society to society. There are different theories which explain the causes for crime. The most significant are differential association theory, anomie theory, control theory, labeling theory, learning theory and personality theory. In 1967, EYSENCK developed the 3-factor theory of personality, which is a biosocial explanation for criminal behavior. The theory includes 3 factors of personality which seem to be higher in criminals. Those are E, that is extraversion or introversion, N, neuroticism or stability, P, psychoticism or altruism. Criminals are deeming to be high in PEN, they reach the highest level. In EYSENCK'S theory, personality is linked to criminal behavior via the socialization processes. Dear students, this is the end of our conclusion module, in which we have recapitulated our chapter about EYSENCK'S theory of personality and crime. I hope you all have enjoyed this lecture. I hope you all have understood the underlying concepts of this chapter. Do keep in mind what we discussed today. I'll be back with one more lecture in this series. If you want to learn more and enhance your knowledge, you may log on to our website www.cec.nic.in for MCQ, quizzes, LORs, etc. Make sure you revise the modules frequently so that you master the topic well and take up the exercises. Thank you for your time today. I'll see you in the next lecture. Keep learning and goodbye.